drivers who face a 12 to 14% rise in the price of diesel. The decision to allow global giants like Walmart and Tesco to sell directly to Indian consumers was abandoned last year due to opposition. The government says that India needs this reform to revive a moribund economy. The reform would allow foreign supermarket chains to own as much as a 51% stake in multi-brand Indian retailers. Colombia is demanding the extradition of drug kingpin Daniel Barrera, who was arrested on Tuesday in Venezuela. Mr. Barrera was one of the most powerful drug barons in the region. His arrest was coordinated between Colombian, Venezuelan, American, and British officials. The U.S. offered $5 million for information leading to his arrest. To hide his identity, Mr. Barrera submitted to plastic surgery and burned his fingertips with acid to destroy the prints. Mr. Barrera's organization is estimated to have shipped some 900 tons of cocaine to the U.S. and Europe.
Afghanistan produces 90% of the world's opium, the main ingredient in heroin. Since the drug is in abundance in the war-ravaged country, addiction is skyrocketing. This report by CNN's Anna Collin shows how some are doing to help. Viewers are warned that the story may be difficult to watch.
In a park in downtown Kabul, huddled under the trees, are a group of Afghans ignored by society. With a syringe in one hand, a vial of heroin in the other, this 28-year-old man begins a ritual that's been part of his life for the past 7 years. He draws the liquid out. What's left over, he drinks, and then he gets into position. Health workers give him sterile swabs to clean his skin. He doesn't use the crook of his arm because his veins have collapsed. Instead, he chooses the back of his hand. For the next 5 minutes, he slowly pumps heroin into his veins. He then collapses with the needle still sticking out of his hand. This is a tragic scene repeated throughout the country, with up to 1 million Afghans addicted to drugs. That's 8% of the population, double the world average. With Afghanistan producing 90% of the world's opium, the main ingredient of heroin, drugs here are pure in quality and very cheap. 28-year-old Reza injects half a gram a day, which costs around $4 US. He started a year ago after being introduced to it by a bad friend. He says he'd like to give up, but at the moment he can't. Using drugs made me leave my home, my family, he tells me. If I didn't use drugs, I would have a family, a good life.
I will show you the...
Ernst Visser runs a preventative drug program for Médecins du Monde in Kabul. It's the only clinic that provides methadone, a substitute for heroin, but can only legally cater for 71 drug users.
I would describe the drug addiction problem in Afghanistan as enormous and growing.
The clinic also helps addicts who walk in off the street.
This is his first day that he's not used any other drugs normally. He's just been put in.
He introduces me to 38-year-old Asadullah, who's been an addict for 14 years. The father of 4 says his family has had enough. I want to use methadone until I forget drugs completely, he says. I want to be a healthy person, to find a good way to start a normal life.
2 years ago, there was a real sign the Afghan government and the international community were serious about tackling drug addiction in this country. A methadone program started, but 2 months later, it was shut down. Officials saying they're still trying to work out the best form of treatment.
According to the UN, it is. But that means little to the countless number of desperate Afghans who can't access the methadone program. 25-year-old Masoma is willing to try a more basic form of treatment. She and her entire family, including her 2 young boys, are addicted to opium. I started to use the drug like a medicine for pain relief after my husband died. But when I became an addict, I had to search for a way to stop this. They're staying at Mother Camp, an organisation founded by a local Afghan woman which tackles drug abuse through counselling. I feel shame and say to myself, why did I do this? Why didn't I think of my children, my future? A powerful motive that for now is keeping her addiction at bay. But for so many other Afghans, that battle is already lost. Anna Corrin, CNN, Kabul.
We now take our second break. Stay tuned.
SIM card bu ñuy wooyee prepaid yóbbaale ma SIM card pour yéen ñi bëgg a dem Màkka ndax jokko bi mën a yomb lool su ngeen di dem dugal leen seen Gamcel scratch card ndax bu ñu leen wooyee am leen yéen it su ngeen wootee ngeen am seen njaboot ndax ñu dëkk ñaanooy yow Gamcel amul leen morom yéen a fi nekkal ñëpp yéen a fi nekkal ñu di doole yi yéen a fi nekkal àddina bee Makkatul Mukarrama yóbbaale ma.
Welcome back. Hundreds of football fans, among them the National Assembly member for Bakau, Khalifa Jammeh, watched Bantankoto beat Magadan Football Club 2-1 in the Community Super Cup final. Ababakar Senghor watched the game and he now tells us more.
3 penalties and a disallowed goal was the full package in 90 unfurling minutes of football in the Bakau Super Cup final. The final pitted 2 of the stellar names in Bakau football in Bantankoto and Magadan. They rolled back the years with a ferocious opponent to the finals. Bantankoto took an early lead when the referee spotted a handball in the Magadan area. Usman Mane held his nerve amid a cacophony of boos from the opposing support to confidently slot home. That penalty set the tone for a compelling 90 minutes of the game, with both sides pressing and harrowing the opponents. Magadan equalized shortly afterwards, catching Bantankoto on the break with a lightning counter-attack. The referee had little option but to award a second spot kick after a rash challenge in the Bantankoto box. That call drew some furious protests from the Bantankoto camp. Usman Sien kept his cool to smash home his side's equalizer. The final, which was attended by scores of local dignitaries and hundreds of football fans, brought about more drama when Bantankoto were awarded a second spot kick. Usman Mane gave his side this lead for the second time in the game. Bantankoto thought they scored again in the latter stages of the game, only to be disappointed by the referee's whistle. It was a final which brought the best out of the youths of the community, much to the delight of community elders. Both sets of fans and players treated the watching public what many of them feel is the new face of Bakau football, as the community Nawetan kicks into life with great fanfare. For Grts Sport, this is Babukar Senghor.
And before we go, a reminder of our headlines. 22 technical assistants from the Federal Republic of Nigeria are set to contribute to the Gambia's health and education sectors. Women from across the West Coast region have received life skills training on the transformation and preservation of perishable fruits and vegetables. Burmese opposition leader and Nobel Peace Laureate Aung San Suu Kyi has backed a U.S. congressional medal as Washington renews its support to Yangon's newfound democracy. And the scourge of heroin addiction in war-ravaged Afghanistan has taken an appalling toll on the bulk of that country's young population. You are reminded that you can monitor GRTS Radio Live on our website at www.grts.gm. That brings us to the end of this edition of the news. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Join us at 10 for another bulletin. Meanwhile, enjoy our programs.